Welcome to this video tutorial on the final step of the structural hierarchy of a protein, in which we will be learning about how the protein it acquires its final domain. It may be the monomeric protein made up of a single polypeptide, or it may be multimeric protein in which there are more than one polypeptides, different polypeptides present to form the functional protein. So come on, let's start with it. In our previous videos, we have seen how the polypeptide sequence it acquires the secondary structure, that is the alpha helix and the pleated sheet structure, by means of hydrogen bonding between the carbonyl oxygen and the amine hydrogen of the backbone. And this compaction is not enough. It does not lead to the final three-dimensional structure of the protein that is required for its functional properties. So that is achieved by means of further folding of this secondary structures, and this folding it brings those parts of the polypeptide chain which actually, linearly speaking, they are very far from each other, but for proper functioning they need to be adjacent to each other. The hydrophobic amino acids, they have to be present in the center part, that is away from the external surface in the cell environment, while in the membrane environment it is the reverse thing because of the lipid bilayer. So these three-dimensional structures or modifications which make the protein actually functional, they are achieved by various interactions between the R groups, between the side chains of this polypeptide sequence, and it results in the formation of the 3D protein, or the three-dimensional, the tertiary structure of the protein. Now, in case of monomeric protein, this is the final structure. However, in case of multimeric proteins, that means in which the functional protein it comprises of more than one polypeptide sequence. In such proteins, another level of structural hierarchy has to be reached, and that is the quaternary structure. The next hierarchical level of the protein structure, that is the tertiary structure, which leads to the final conformation, the final structure or positioning of various amino acid residues within that protein molecule. That is achieved by this formation of various types of bonds, and we say that here this bond formation is between the side chains. So these R groups or the side chains, they have been broadly categorized into three types, because we know that just 20 different amino acids, and these amino acid sequence which is present in our polypeptide chain, which has by now acquired the either alpha helical structure or the beta pleated, that is the secondary structures. Now their side chains, they have to interact, and that interaction it depends upon which type of side chains are present in each other's contact or near each other, because of the folding of that polypeptide sequence upon itself. So that folded structure of the polypeptide, it is stabilized by different types of bonds, and These amino acids, the 20 essential amino acids, they may be categorized into three categories on the basis of the different R groups present. And these R groups, they may be the charged or the polar and the uncharged R groups. So they will lead to the hydrophilic amino acids. Then there may be the aliphatic or the bulky and aromatic R groups. They are referred to as the hydrophobic amino acids. And there are certain special groups also which may be present, and like in the amino acids cysteine, glycine, and proline. So, depending on the nature of the R group, this different types of bonds they are present which stabilize the tertiary structure or the 3D structure of a protein. Now, at times, these interactions they even interfere with the hydrogen bonding of the basic chain, say of the alpha helical structure. So, in here, if polar groups are present or if ionic groups are present, then different ionic bonds may also be formed. Here, hydrogen bond is being formed between these two side chains. And if ionic side chains they are present, that is positively charged, like charges, if they are near each other, they will repel each other. However, if unlike charges, the positive and the negative charges of the side chains, they are near each other, then they will form specific bonds. And see, because of the formation of this hydrogen bond in this and the ionic bond in this part of the polypeptide sequence, these two parts, which actually linearly they are quite far apart from each other, they are now in contact. So they confer various structural and functional properties to the final protein that is being molded by the formation of these tertiary proteins. Similarly, the uncharged non-polar side chains, they form hydrophobic interactions. And now this part, it has to remain away from the water, hydrophobic. While the special groups like the cysteine, which is rich in, which has got the sulfur element. So because of the presence of sulfur element, these cysteine amino acids, they form disulfide linkages, and this is of very common occurrence in these folded tertiary structures. So this polypeptide backbone, because of these various interactions, they come close to each other. Now, as we know that these large proteins, they contain distinct domains which are very characteristic structural features, and because of them specific functions they can be uh, uh, the protein, it can uh, have those specific functions. So these large proteins, they are compacted, and this compact folded structure is formed by this folding of the basic polypeptide backbone. By means of these foldings, the hydrophobic side chains, they are buried within in the interior part of these proteins, while the polar and the charged side chains, which can remain in contact with the water, the aqueous environment of the cell system, they come to lie on the surface. And these foldings, they are stabilized by means of these different types of bonds, the covalent and the non-covalent bonds between the side chains of the amino acids that form that particular protein, the polypeptide sequence. So this is how the monomeric protein, the protein made up of a single polypeptide, it achieves its final structure that leads to various functional properties of that specific protein. Now, what about a multimeric protein? Like here, the example is of the hemoglobin, which comprises of four different polypeptides, two alpha chains and the two beta chains. So these various polypeptides, they have to associate with each other in a specific manner so that they may become functional, and that is achieved by this next level of hierarchy, that is quaternary structures they are produced in case of multimeric protein. So this level is achieved by the spatial arrangement of various tertiary proteins. Each individual polypeptide, it has achieved the tertiary structure, and then these various proteins which are in the tertiary structural form, they come and associate with each other by means of covalent links like the disulfide bonds. Now this time this disulfide bond formation will be between different subunits, or various non-covalent interactions like the van der Waals forces, the electrostatic forces, or the hydrogen bonding between the side chains and of these different subunits, or various hydrophobic interactions that we have already seen in case of tertiary structure formation. So in this manner, this complex protein, the multimeric protein, is produced. It achieves its specific structure. And this quaternary structure, it describes the number of subunits that are present and also the relative position of these subunits. That is specified, or that is achieved by means of this stage of structural hierarchy. So in this manner, the polypeptide sequence, the various amino acid residues which are connected to each other by means of peptide bonds, they gradually take the form of the one-dimensional or the 1D, the two-dimensional and three-dimensional, and ultimately the quaternary structure. And then they form the protein that performs various functions within the cell system.